The year, 1986. The place, the Soviet Union. It was a nuclear power station that, to the outside world, appeared as nothing more than a cornerstone of Soviet industry. With every sunrise, life followed an unremarkable rhythm. Children set off for school, farmers tended to their fields, and laborers marched to their factories. Families lived with a quiet, steady momentum. In the air hung a sense of serenity. People were dreaming, building, and looking toward the future. But beneath this veil of stillness, an invisible restlessness had begun to stir. There were no sirens yet, no overt signs of danger. But then, a flicker of panic appeared in the eyes of the workers. A sudden, unexplained urgency gripped the halls of the plant. A nameless dread was rising, one that would soon tear through their dreams and rewrite their futures forever. The late 1960s. The smoke of World War II had long cleared, but a new kind of shadow was stretching across the globe. The tension between the Soviet Union and the USA had shifted. The question was no longer about who could win a war of bullets, but who would win the war of economic and technological supremacy. To fuel its massive industrial growth and outpace the West, the Soviet Union turned to the peaceful atom. They envisioned a future where nuclear energy wasn't a weapon of destruction, but the heartbeat of a modern empire. This vision led to the birth of the Chernobyl plant, also known as V.I. Lenin Communist Memorial Nuclear Power Station. Starting in 1972, they didn't just build a plant, they built an entire atomic city called Pripyat, also known as Chernobyl. It was a model of socialist perfection, a home for 50,000 people who believed they were living at the frontier of the future. And just 16 kilometers away from Chernobyl, the nuclear power plant, Chernobyl, was built. Chernobyl power plant had 4 reactor units, with each having RBMK 1000 reactor. Plant 1 and 2 were built in 1977. Plant 3 was in 1981. By 1983, with the completion of reactor unit 4, the Soviets had achieved their goal, a 1,000 megawatt beast that powered 10% of Ukraine. It was the ultimate dual-use marvel, lighting up homes while silently fueling the Soviet weapons program. To understand the disaster, we have to look inside the RBMK 1000. Inside this core, 3 main components dictated the physics of the plant. The fuel rods, the engine. These were long assemblies of uranium-235. When a neutron hits a uranium atom, it splits, releasing heat and more neutrons. This is nuclear fission. The goal is to keep this chain reaction steady. The moderator, the accelerator. This is the graphite. In an RBMK, the fuel rods are surrounded by graphite blocks. Why? Because neutrons from fission move too fast to hit other atoms. The graphite slows them down, making them sticky and far more likely to cause more fission. In this reactor, graphite equals go. The control rods, the brakes. Scattered throughout the core were 211 rods made of boron. Boron is a neutron sponge. It eats neutrons without splitting. When you lower these rods, you're essentially putting a blanket over the fire. And flowing through all of this was the coolant, water. The water traveled up the fuel channels at high pressure to soak up the heat. On the night of April 26, 1986, a test was conducted in Reactor 4. The engineers want to see if the plant can cool itself during a total power failure. It was meant to be a routine technical exercise, but the RBMK 1000 is an unpredictable machine at low power. The power doesn't just settle, it collapses. The reactor stalls, and in a desperate move to keep the core alive, the operators pull out almost every single boron control rod. They have pushed the machine into a state of unstable equilibrium. At this point, the physics took over. There are three scientific reasons why this led to a total explosion. First, xenon poisoning. Because the reactor had been running at low power for too long, a byproduct called xenon-135, a powerful neutron absorber, built up in the core. It was choking the reaction. Operators, unaware the core was poisoned, removed the control rods to compensate. They were essentially flooring the gas pedal while the engine was clogged. Second, the fatal design. At 1:23 a.m., as power began to spike, they hit the AZ5 emergency button to drop the rods back in. But these rods had graphite tips. For the first few seconds of entry, those tips didn't stop the reaction. They boosted it. This pushed the system into a prompt critical state where the nuclear reaction became instantaneous and beyond all control. Third, thermodynamics. The resulting heat surge turned the cooling water into high-pressure steam in a fraction of a second. This wasn't a nuclear blast, but a massive steam explosion that shattered the reactor structure and blew the 1,000-ton lid right off the core. The explosion was only the beginning. Moments later, the first firefighters arrived. They weren't just fighting fire, they were standing in a radioactive volcano. For 10 days, they battled the uncontainable. From above, helicopter pilots dropped sand and lead into the open core, until one aircraft clipped a crane and plummeted into the wreckage. A tragic sacrifice in a war against an invisible enemy. In the hospitals, the cost became visible. Innocent families were brought in by the hundreds. In a desperate move, the firefighters' clothing was stripped and thrown into the basement. Even today, 40 years later, those uniforms remain so radioactive that the basement is sealed, a silent, glowing graveyard of the men who gave everything. As a radioactive plume drifted across Europe, a new disaster brewed. Molten fuel was melting toward a pool of water beneath the plant. If they met, a second explosion would have poisoned the entire region's water. Enter our heroes, Alexei Ananenko, Valery Bespalov, and Boris Baranov. They waded into the radioactive blackness of the flooded basement. In total darkness, they found the valves, drained the water, and saved millions. The explosion left behind a ghost world, a 1,000 square mile exclusion zone where fields once farmed are now silent. While the immediate death toll was dozens, thousands more suffered from long-term illnesses. It was a staggering price for a failure of safety culture. Now, what can we learn from the Chernobyl plant? Technology is only as safe as the people and the protocols behind it. We learned that transparency, constant monitoring, and the protection of our environment are not optional. They are a sacred duty. Today, we stand at the threshold of our own nuclear era with the Rupur nuclear power plant. For us, Rupur is more than just a source of energy. It is a profound center of learning. We look back at the shadows of Chernobyl not with fear, but as a lesson in the absolute necessity of safety protocols. It serves as a stark reminder of why we must demand the highest standards of modern technology, rigorous surveillance, and exhaustive training for every soul within those walls. True progress lies in the harmony between power and protection, in our commitment to environmental stewardship and the safety of the communities that live in the plant's shadow. The legacy of the past teaches us that without constant vigilance, transparent emergency planning, and a culture of continuous education, the benefits of such massive projects remain fragile. Rupur is our promise to the future, a promise that we will harness the atom with caution, wisdom, and an unwavering respect for life, ensuring that we never face the darkness of such a tragedy again.